Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. On Mac Sports and the Northeast Streaming Sports Facebook pages. The Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel, also on Twitter and Instagram. Like, share, and please subscribe to the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel for all the great Northeast Streaming Sports shows. Our website is nessp.info. Check it out. Information on our shows, our guests, stores, and links to those stores. I'm Mac with your co-host, Jack Hurst, legendary boxing writer and former president of the Boxing Writers Association of America, bringing you national sports with special focus on Northeast professional sports from New York, Boston, and Philly. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, Mac. How are you?
I'm doing good, Jack. I mean, we're already getting comments on here. David Guyette jumps in. Good morning, David. Keith, great to see you as always. And Tom, always a pleasure having you on the Mac and Jack Sports Show. So, Jack, you know, we've got a lot of things going on out there in the world of sports. Today we'll have CARTERB coming in with his hockey update, which is always a pleasure having him on. He knows everything about hockey, especially in the locals. And we'll have the Iceman, John Scully, is scheduled to come in at 8:30 around that time. We'll be covering a lot of boxing news. And as you know, the NFL schedule just came out. And Jack, what we're going to do, and I'm going to let you know right now, and it's a surprise to you and to the fans that watch us out there, every Sunday, starting this Sunday, we're going to break down the schedule of the locals and think, based off last year, their draft, who they lost, who they picked up in free agency, what their records are going to be come the end of the year. It will be 5 teams, Jack. We'll have the Giants, the Jets, the Pats, the Bills, and the Eagles. We'll go over their schedules and once a week, every Sunday. And then after we're done with that, following the last local team, then we'll start predicting the standings themselves. And by that time, we should be to game 1, Jack.
Mac, you make me feel like Aaron Rodgers, who first found out the Packers drafted a quarterback. Jordan Love moved up when he was watching on TV. Mac, it's too early to give an exact prediction on how each team's going to do wins and losses.
Jack,
it's a little too early. You're pinning me down months in advance. I'll give you a rough idea of how I think they'll do.
No, Jack,
I can't give an exact.
Jack, I don't want to hear complaining. I want to hear your predictions of records as we go along. Heck, they're already predicting the odds on some shows of games that haven't even come close to happening yet. So we're going to take each team. We're going to have all the viewers and the people that watch our show, and we're going to make predictions on what we think the final records will be. And we're going to do it once a week. And this way, when football season hits, we're up. We got our predictions, and we get to make fun of each other by the end of the year. We might even bring in some guests, Jack.
But I want to see that little teeny fine print. You ever see these things on contracts when you buy it? The print is so small you can't read it.
Right.
But the consumer has no recourse. He can't appeal it because the fine print is so small when he buys the product. The magnifying glass can't even help him, read it. So to me, I want to say subject to change. Subject to change. We don't know who might get injured, Mac. I mean,
look at it.
Now I'm saying Keith Engel, Bucs are 3.5-point favorite over the Pats in week 4. I mean, give me a break. We're going to come up with a week 4 prediction, Mac. Are we going to predict each week? Each week, each game?
No, not till the season starts, Jack. Not till the season starts. In fact, we're going to have a line of a show where we will advise people to bet on certain games in a week. Like they have on other ones. Last year, Jack, I was 70%. But we're going to actually have a show where folks can tune into. I'm not sure who's going to be at it yet. You're pretty good at predicting, Jack. I might let you on this one too. but on a Wednesday, maybe Thursday, where we're actually going to have a show on betting lines and to point people in the right direction. So there you go. So anyway,
Mac, they bet at their own risk. I'm not going to be held accountable. Someone making a wager losing, and then they call the Mac and Jack show. Then they're blaming us. They can't pay the rent or whatever. It's okay, Mac. I've said enough on the matter. I mean, you're in charge. I'm following your lead. You're the quarterback on this. You're calling the plays. I'm running the plays.
Yes. So we're gonna have a lot of fun, Jack. When the season starts, we're even gonna do, believe it or not, folks, we're gonna do a recap around 4:15, 4:30 with kind of highlights of the show. So we're gonna have 2 new shows coming up during the football season to go along with our big football show Sunday. So, and this is the coverage of the games, the highlights, and the betting on the games against the spreads will all be covered by Northeast Streaming Sports. It won't just be Mac and Jack. So this way we can kind of do this. We weren't sure, blah, blah. But Northeast Streaming Sports now, that's where these shows are going to be at. So, folks, a lot of exciting news. With the schedules coming out, Jack, I guess we got a few, before Carter gets in here, a few things we can talk about, right? We got Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against Belichick and the Patriots. Of course, that's really not the matchup. Belichick is not playing Brady. But Brady pretty much runs the offense over there with a little bit of help. And Belichick definitely runs the defense over there.
Could I tell you, Mac, people are going to look forward to that game with great anticipation. It's going to have great ratings. But you want to know something? When the game is done, no one's going to remember it in the long run. And I'm going to give you a case in point. After Joe Montana left the 49ers, the 49ers played the Kansas City Chiefs, who Montana was the quarterback for, and Steve Young was the quarterback for the 49ers. It was Montana against Young in that game. The Chiefs won that game with Joe Montana over Steve Young. But that year, the 49ers won the Super Bowl with Steve Young throwing 6 touchdown passes in the Super Bowl. All anyone remembers is Steve Young being the Super Bowl winning quarterback that year. They don't remember the loss to the Kansas City Chiefs and Joe Montana, because historically that turned out to be just another regular season game, no more than that.
Yes, and we're going to have Giants ex-head coach, the offensive coordinator with the Denver Broncos, going against the Giants. So there's another coach, ex-coach of the Giants, going up against his former team.
I got to tell you, with Keith Engel wanting my credit card for betting, just a very quick story, very quick. I was out in Las Vegas years ago. The Jets are playing the Patriots. And when I'm on Las Vegas, I got to put a bet down. I absolutely have to go to the windows. That's fun. And, of course, I'm a Jet fan. I want to bet on the Jets. How can I bet against the Jets? But I think New England's going to kick their rear end. But I still put my money on the Jets, and New England kicks their rear end. It came out the game the way I thought it would. And had I bet with my head instead of my heart, I would have, won. And because I bet with my heart on my team, the Jets, I wound up losing.
Well, there's one rule I've always followed since I have made wagers in the past. I never bet against or with my team unless I'm absolutely sure. In other words, if they're going up against a team I know is better, I'll stay away from it. If there's a team that I think they can beat and they're underdogs, I might pick them, but very rarely, Jack. I like to stay away from my team when I'm betting. So it's just, I don't know, something maybe it's kind of, some kind of superstition I got because you know what I'm saying? So anyway, so we're gonna have a lot of fun, Jack, this year with football. We're gonna do with Northeast Streaming Sports. At least we're gonna have a lot more fun and be a lot more entailed in the stuff that happens over in the NFL. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. Now, of course, we got Carter's due to come in here in a few minutes with the hockey update, and we're in the playoffs. are coming up. Everybody's in except there's one seed to be decided. And we got some news on the Rangers I want to get to them with. Just for all the Knicks fans out there, the Knicks, Jack, are in the playoffs. Wow. When's the last time that happened?
Well, they slipped a little from the number 4 seed, but I've been saying all along, it doesn't matter whether they're the 4th, 5th, or 6th seed. You know, wherever it ultimately winds up. It's been a great year for the Knicks. And the Knicks are playing with house money now, basically. They can get swept in the first round of the playoffs, and the year's been a success. Because for the first time in a long time, the Knicks have become relevant. We've talked about the Knicks. You know, they have a little buzz about them. The pressure is going to be on a little more next year to see whether they can take another step forward. It doesn't necessarily have to be as a championship contender, but we want to see yet improvement where we could be saying, well, they were a year away from truly mixing with the big guys, which are, of course, the 76ers and the Nets. But, you know, they're getting there. A heck of a job by Tom Thibodeau. Julius Randle has shown himself to be a bona fide, you know, star for the Knicks this year. I mean, great year for the Knicks, no matter what happens from this moment, you know, going forward for the rest of the season.
Well, Jack, backstage right now.
Tension grows, the whistle blows, and the puck goes down the ice. The goalie jumps, and the players bump, and the fans all go insane. Someone roars, Holly Star,
Good morning, Carter. How you doing today, my friend?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Not too bad at all, Carter. We got a lot of stuff to talk about here in a short amount of time as the NHL prepares for the Stanley Cup playoffs. So, Carter, let's get right into it, right? So we have in the Central, the Hurricanes are going to be playing Nashville. And we also have Florida versus Tampa Bay, if I'm correct. Or am I in? Yes, that's right. So the Hurricanes against Nashville, do you give the Predators a realistic chance of winning any games in the playoffs this year, Carter?
It's tough to say. It's funny because I had an episode of the 2-on-0 hockey show yesterday with my co-host Andrew, and I asked him to pick a team that might be a dark horse to not only win a playoff series but possibly win the Stanley Cup. And he didn't go with Nashville, but I did. I mean, I decided that I like the way that Nashville's played over their second half of the season. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10 games, and they've won 2 in a row. Yeah, a 2-game winning streak isn't all that impressive, but I mean, they're looking good going into the playoffs. And, at the end of the day, I mean, if you're able to carry any momentum possible from the regular season, especially when your most recent game was against the team that you're playing in round 1, it's definitely got to give you some confidence. Carolina's an amazing team. I'm not taking anything away from them, but if Nashville can win a game or two, this might be a lot closer of a series than we might think.
So you are really saying right now that the Predators have a chance at winning the series? Come on, Carter.
To be fair,
I mean, Carter, I love your analysis.
Listen, Carter's picking the Islanders to win the Stanley Cup, and that's that. So,
I'm not even picking them to get out of the first round, I'm being honest. I mean,
Carter, listen, you are a lot more smarter about hockey than me, and I there's no denying that. I think Predators might get swept. Honestly, I think Predators may not even win a game in the first round here. But if you think so, I'm gonna write this down, Carter, and I am going to remind you of this when the Predators get knocked out. So
I don't think they're gonna win. I'm not saying the Predators are going to win the series. I think they'll push it to maybe 6, maybe 7. But wow. I don't think they're going to get, manhandled by Carolina like everybody's saying.
But Matt Carter, you mentioned any surprise team. There are not that many surprise teams in the NHL who are going to come up because if you look at them, there's so few. Maybe you want to mention the Montreal Canadiens, for example. They would come under the classification of a surprise team. But to some of the other teams like the Bruins, the Penguins, are they really surprise teams? Are the Islanders a surprise team? I mean, there's so many teams that can win it. That's what makes the Stanley Cup playoffs so great.
Well, first, Jack, I didn't say anything about surprise teams. I think you were listening to the Twilight Zone theme. All I said was I didn't think the Predators could win a game, and Carter's saying they might be able to win a series, and that's the only thing I said. I don't know about those surprise teams. I think Florida and Tampa Bay, I think that they both are for real, and that either one of those could win that division. Carter, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. These two teams they've looked like Stanley Cup contenders throughout the entire course of their season so far, and with Florida, it's been interesting because I think everybody expected Tampa Bay to be here. I think everyone expected Tampa to have as good of a record as they do. But with the Florida Panthers, I mean, they've pretty much blown away everybody's expectations. They've done incredible this year. They were only 1 point away from actually winning their division, and they're on a 6-game winning streak of their own. So I've given the Panthers a little bit of garbage on the 2-on-0 hockey show. I basically said that they weren't, for real. But over the course of these last couple of games, they've definitely proved me wrong. They're changing my opinion a little bit. So I don't know if I'm necessarily picking them to kind of dethrone the defending champs, but I guess anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay, as you said before, was looked at by the experts as the best team in the league, but I'm not so sure now, Carter. I think that division, you've got three of those teams can win that division and represent that division in the Stanley Cup. So in the North, Toronto is at Montreal. Jack mentioned Montreal, and a lot of people are saying Montreal might be a surprise team to win that division. I don't think so. I think this is people going back in history and kind of making a little, romantic assumption here. I think the Canadians are not that good, and I think Toronto is by far the best team in there, Carter.
Yeah, I would agree with that. As much as, Montreal's given Toronto they haven't really given them a hard time over the course of the regular season. Again, I know the regular season doesn't mean much when it comes to the playoffs, but it does kind of give you an insight on, how these teams will match up a little bit. And I think that I was telling one of my friends this yesterday. If I'm the Toronto Maple Leafs, I think all the pressure is on you to win the series. You're the Maple Leafs. You have to get out of the first round. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you sweep the Canadians. I don't care if you beat them in Game 7 in triple overtime. You have to get out of the first round. You have to win a playoff series because with the way this division's set up, I think they can beat any one of those three teams in a best-of-7 series. I think they would have a little bit more of a struggle against Edmonton or Winnipeg than they would against the Canadians. But, I mean, at the end of the day, though, I think this is Toronto's division to lose. And if they don't get at least to the Final Four, then I think this season's a failure.
Good. I was just going to say that, Carter, because the Oilers and the Jets are playing. I mean, for either one of those teams to win that and for Toronto to lose it after dominating a division, the season is just worthless. I mean, who cares how far ahead and how great they played during the season?
What Carter's mentioning with Toronto, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but of all the NHL cities, I get the feeling it would mean most to Toronto to win a Stanley Cup than any other city. It would mean a great deal to any city, of course, but what it would mean to Toronto, one of the original 6 NHL teams, and I think the last time they won it was like 1968 or thereabouts. It's been a long, long time. And for a hockey-rich city like that, I think it would be off the charts if they won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that's not even a question. I mean, if the Maple Leafs won the Stanley Cup, we saw what it was like a few years ago when the Raptors won the NBA championship. That was their first finals win ever. You're talking about the Leafs breaking close to a 54-year Stanley Cup drought. They haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967. So if this team worked, I think there would be a lot of buzz surrounding this team if they even made it to the second round, let alone win a Stanley Cup. So, I mean, I'd love to see it happen for the city of Toronto. I have a lot of family up there, so it would be cool to to see them win a Stanley Cup.
So in the West, we got 4 teams, but the first place hasn't been clinched. Colorado Knights still are alive for that to win that division. I mean, does it even really matter Carter. I mean, the two teams that are going to battle out are the Knights and the Avalanche. I don't see the Wild and Blues having a shot at winning the division. How about you?
See, I don't know. I mean, I'm coming in with the hot takes today. A lot of people, I don't think, are giving this Minnesota Wild team a lot of credit. This Wild club is very, very good. I think they're very underrated in terms of the talent that they have. And I mean, what a lot of people aren't realizing is that, a lot of people are dubbing Vegas and Colorado as the true Stanley Cup contenders in that division, as they should be. I mean, they're two very talented clubs in their own right, but Minnesota's only 3 points behind Colorado right now. So the gap really isn't as big as most people are comparing it out to be. And Minnesota's 7-1-2 in their last 10 games. So this is a very, very good Wild club that I don't think a lot of people are really giving as much credit as they should be getting. I mean, I don't know. I could see this Minnesota team maybe giving Colorado an upset, but I think it's pretty safe to say that it should be, anyway, a Vegas-Colorado series to see who gets to the semis.
So we get to the East, and I don't want to make a ding on your Islanders there, Carter, but I don't know what the roller coaster ride is all about. I mean, they're disappointing going in, and, momentum is very, very important going into the playoffs. You got the Penguins who've been on fire. They've been eating people up. I mean, listen, the Islanders have a great defense. We all know that, right? But to score, to make the goals off that defense, they've been having a lot of problems with this year, especially at the end of the year. How can the Isles get some offense and get them Penguins back on their heels?
It's tough to say. I think it depends on how the Penguins come out in the series. If they're coming out and they're playing aggressive, you just got to kind of chip and chase around them. You got to get pucks into the zone, and you kind of just got to work on the forecheck. I mean, you just got to throw pucks from anywhere if you're in the offensive zone. I think the Islanders wait too long to shoot the puck, and they also try and look for that perfect pass instead of just throwing it on net, seeing what happens, and trying to beat a goaltender just based on a random shot. I've seen it way too many times over the course of this regular season. In fact, I saw it quite a few times in their last game of the season against the Boston Bruins. They don't shoot the puck enough, and if they don't learn to shoot the puck before the Stanley Cup playoffs start, they're going to lose. I love Barry Trotz as a coach. I mean, Carlos, I don't know if I agree with you, if he's necessarily messy or terrible, but I mean, he's the reason that the Islanders are here right now. His defensive structure, his game, the way that he kind of makes his guys play, his structured defensive style of hockey is the reason why the Islanders are here, and that's great. They have that part of their game down. Now, if you can chip in maybe 3 or 4 goals a night, you could be in a good spot. You could put the Pens in the ears a little bit.
Carter, every year they're overachievers and underachievers, and I think the biggest overachievers in the NHL this year have been the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, but usually when a team overachieves during the regular season, it catches up to them in the playoffs. And I think the Islanders might be getting a nice opening round match for them, especially the way the Islanders have been playing so. This will give them a chance, to straighten things out. I think it's a good series matchup for them as opposed to playing the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I was telling my co-host Andrew yesterday that out of the 3 teams that are in the playoffs, I don't think they would have played Boston anyway unless they get to the second round. So it's really out of the Capitals and the Penguins. I'd take the Penguins any day of the week. I think the Islanders have struggled mightily against the Washington Capitals this season, and it really hasn't been that close. They've lost a few blowout games in that stretch. With the Penguins, they have a record under 500, but at the same time, most of these games have been lost by either a goal or 2. There was only one game where the Islanders lost by 3, and it was a 6-3 final. So at the end of the day, I mean, I think the Penguins are the best potential matchup for the Islanders. I mean, the Islanders have beaten the Penguins in the playoffs before in 2019. I know that it was 2 different teams going at it, but I don't know. I mean, I'm excited to see how the playoffs start. I'm picking if you ask me for a pick, I think it's going to be Pittsburgh in 6, but I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens.
Definitely. So you got Washington and the Bruins. I think this will be a great matchup, Carter. I'm not sure if the Bruins, because of their history, if that makes a difference or not. I mean, if you look at it, Washington's been playing lights out pretty much all year. The Bruins made a good surge at the end to take third. They were one of the ones predicted to win the division there. I don't know. I kind of like the Bruins in this spot. I'm going to go with the history. I would love to see the Bruins end up playing. I don't think the Islanders are going to do it. I would love to see the Islanders do it, but I would love to see the Bruins play the Penguins for that division title there. I mean, I think that will be a heck of a series.
Yeah, I agree. And I had mentioned before that the regular season series kind of gives you an insight on how teams match up against one another. I'm not getting anything from this regular season series between the Bruins and the Caps, man. I mean, these two teams, they've played 8 games and they each have 4 wins on the season. So they even split the regular season. So, I mean, at this point, I don't even know. Flip a coin at this point in terms of who I think is going to win this series. I guess that, there are things that I have a few questions with both sides. But I think at the end of the day, I like the Bruins defense more than I like the Capitals. I think the Capitals are more of like a high-flying goal-scoring team than a defensive club. So I think I agree with you that I think the Bruins will find a way to pull this one out. But like we mentioned before, the beauty of the Stanley Cup playoffs is you never truly know what's going to happen. So we'll see what happens.
How much of the Capitals roster is intact from the time they won the Stanley Cup? It wasn't that long ago that they were Stanley Cup champions. I mean, how many guys are still on the team? And of course, Ovechkin is back at 100%, and you can never sell him short.
Yeah, I mean, this is essentially the same club that won the Stanley Cup 2 years ago. You hit the nail on the head, Jack. And, I think that's important to have because this team knows what it takes to win in the playoffs. They might not have Barry Trotz anymore, but they have Peter Laviolette, who, he might not have won a Stanley Cup in his career. He came close with the Nashville Predators, but it's important to have a veteran coach who knows what it takes to win in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And Peter Laviolette is that guy. He's no Barry Trotz. He's no, Hall of Fame coach. But I think at the end of the day, the Bruins have their work cut out for them, and the Washington Capitals, and vice versa. So this is going to be. This is definitely going to be an entertaining series and one that I'm going to keep my eye on.
No doubt, no doubt. So let's get to the other team in the East with some big news. Of course, we know the Rangers shook things up. They got a new GM in there, and the head coach got fired. I don't know if that was a good move, Carter. I think Quinn was building a nice thing there. He's a very, very good coach. I know they want to have their own coach in there when they start a new – a new thing and a new team. They kept a goalie coach. I don't know. I think Quinn. I think that was a bad move. I think they should at least gave Quinn 1 or 2 more years to see if he could have done something there. The Rangers looked good this year for a young team, I thought.
Yeah, I would agree, but I think that especially with everything going on in the last couple of weeks, we saw kind of what transpired after Jeff Gorton and John Davidson were fired. The expectation from their owner, James Dolan, now is that they were expected to be a playoff team. Yeah, they had a good year in terms of their expectations for such a young club, but at the end of the day, I think the expectation from ownership is they were supposed to contend for a playoff spot instead of contending for a lottery pick. So, but here's the thing, though, that I think I'm kind of iffy about. I think the Rangers got rid of David Quinn because they knew that they're going to have someone on the market who is better than him. I don't think the Rangers would have gotten rid of David Quinn if they knew that there wasn't an upgrade out there. And I think they have their eyes set on, I know Keith from TGI Sports mentioned Gerard Gallant earlier in one of the comments that you guys showed. I think he's one of the favorites to be hired right now. I think he would make a good fit with the Rangers. I also think Rick Tocchet from the Arizona Coyotes might make a good fit for this Ranger club. So I've heard a lot of comments about John Tortorella. I don't think they're going to go down that road again. But I don't know. I mean, I think the one thing that the Rangers should do, and they have to do at this point, though, you have to make the right decision. If you're going to hire a new coach, this is still a relatively young Ranger team. You need a coach who not only can handle coaching a lot of young talent, but at the same time, you need a coach who can galvanize all of the veteran leadership there. Once you get that mesh, that perfect blend together, that's when the Rangers are going to become a playoff team, and this is when they're going to start winning.
Well, I can't understand, guys, just Carter. Why do it with a couple of games left in the season? Why not just wait until the season ended? Then you could fire the GM, the coach. Unless there's one particular candidate out there they need to talk to immediately because they're scared they're going to lose him to another team. That would be the only reason I could see. Otherwise, it never makes any sense to me why teams fire coach and GM so late in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they kind of viewed the season as a lost cause at that point. I mean, the Rangers were quite a few points out of the playoffs, when they fired Gorton and Davidson. But, I mean, I agree. I don't know if I necessarily, would go along with the whole firing your GM thing with a few games left in the season. But you're absolutely right, Carlos. I mean, Dolan does not make sense. He does a few things that are questionable, but it's funny because oftentimes he'll take turns between the Rangers and the Knicks to see which one he wants to screw up. So,
wait. I have a feeling, guys, Mac, and then I'm going to be quiet. Last thing, Jack Eichel. I have a feeling Dolan's fingerprints could be on that.
I was just going there, Jack. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that, Mac.
No, beautiful.
Yeah. These comments that have been made by Jack Eichel, they're definitely not ones that you want to hear if you're a Buffalo Sabre fan. And I mean, if I'm Jack Eichel, I'm demanding a trade as early as possible. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with Jack Eichel, to be completely honest with you. I know he's struggled with injuries. Obviously, he was out the majority of this season with an injury in his neck. And the big controversy right now is basically that he wants to get surgery in order to better himself and get himself ready for the start of next season. But the Sabres are coming in with their opinion and saying, no, we don't want you to do that. We want you to kind of go through this naturally, even if you're not ready for the start of next season, which seems crazy considering Eichel is their best player. He's their captain. He's the face of their franchise. So why would you not want him to get surgery if it's going to get him better faster? I mean, I don't know.
Maybe they're worried about another team picking him up. Maybe some contract thing going on. Who knows? Who knows, Carter? But I do know that I can't wait to see your coverage on the playoffs. You do a great job over there on 2-0, and we're glad that you're on every week. Have a great weekend, Carter, and we'll definitely be talking to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. So, Jack, as we push on through our guest list today, we got one of the best boxing commentators, the guy who has more knowledge about boxing in every aspect of it, right? Great boxer, great trainer, writes, was an analyst. That's the Iceman, John Scully, who we got coming up right this minute. I'm trying to find something here for him here, if I can find it. Something. I had a redo, Iceman. You're backstage right now. I want to bring you up right, but I had this redo I had to do in the studio, and I lost all my darn banners. But I'm just going to bring you up. I'll make it up as we go. So, Iceman, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. How you doing?
You're looking all spiffy out there outside, man. You're all dressed up like you're going somewhere. You're going, Iceman. You going anywhere? You're just hanging outside.
I'm going on the porch.
There you go. So Iceman, there's a few things that I want to get your reaction to. First, I kind of want to go over the schedule coming up in boxing. That will some of the fights that'll be coming up. You've got. Let me see if I got this right. A top rank on June 19th. You have Teofimo Lopez against George Kambosos. You got Gonzalez versus Torres Friday, May 21st. Tira versus Lopez on Telemundo, May 14th. May 23rd. Marvin Hagler Day. I thought I'd throw that in there, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Roman versus Espinoza fight Saturday for the unified bantamweight. And that's May 15th on Showtime. So first I want to get your thoughts on Marvin Hagler. I know, to me anyways, probably the most dominating middleweight. Well, let's just say one of them, because there's been a couple in the history of boxing. From Brockton, they're going to have for his 67th birthday, they're going to have a Marvin Hagler Day. When you watched him Iceman. I don't know if you ever met him or ever personally met him or whatever. What was it like to actually, to watch this guy fight? I mean, this guy could box. He had power. He had determination. Had a lot of rough times in his life. And what did you think about Marvin Hagler as not only a boxer but a person?
Well, I'll tell you, I have some funny, interesting Marvin Hagler connections. When I was an amateur, I used to train at his gym, but I never saw him there. But I used to train. I used to spar. I sparred with his brother, Robbie Sims. I sparred with Stevie Collins, future world champion. And every time I used to go to the gym, the Petronelli brothers, I would go. Marvin had his own private dressing room. And I used to go in there and, look around and, and sit there. I would just sit there and just think like, man, like Marvin Hagler gets dressed in this room. And I would just sit there for like 20 minutes and nobody would, Goody, and nobody would know I was there. But I'll tell you a funny thing, though. The first time I really was around Marvin, I fought Drake Dadsey, who was his stablemate. Goody trained Drake Dadsey. And it's a long story, but I wasn't ready for the fight. Like I was really I retired in the ring right after the fight. It was a miserable night, most miserable night of my life. Not just of my career, but of my life. Like it was really horrible. So during the fight, Hagler is ringside. Now I used to look up to Hagler. I have some stories about how I used to emulate him. So I'm in the fight and I can hear Hagler behind me. I'm against the ropes and I can hear him yelling for Drake, talking to Drake. And I'm like, man, this freaking guy, like, this is where my mindset was. I was like, this is on ESPN. And I'm thinking, man, I used to really look up to this guy. And I used to be in his dressing room. And I used to imitate him when I was fighting certain guys. And now he's cheering against me. And I just got madder and madder and madder. And one round, and a guy in the audience swears I did this. I don't remember. I don't think I did this. I was going to. I was against the ropes and covering up, and Drake was hitting my gloves, and all I can hear is Hagler yelling for him. And I kept saying to myself, when this round's over, I'm going to walk right over to Marvin in front of everybody, and I'm going to say, you should have done that when you fought Sugar Ray Leonard. Maybe you would have beat him. And as I remember, I was walking over to do it when the round ended, and my trainer came out and grabbed me. My friend swears I did it. I don't know, but I will say this. This is what it meant to have Marvin in New England. I used to go up, when I looked at guys, different guys, I was like, I would consider myself an underdog. Like these guys were big names and they were out of big gyms and everything like that, right? So in 1987, I go to the Ohio State Fair and the Kronk team was there. Emmanuel Stewart was there with his team. And I remember they all got off the bus and they all had their uniforms. And so there was like 20 of them together. And I was by myself with my coach. We used to travel alone. So I had no team, no entourage, no nothing. So the Kronk is there, and I fight a guy named Willie Dynamite Smith. And Willie was like 6'3", just like Tommy Hearns and Milt McCrory. He was built the same, everything. And so everybody's together. All the Kronk guys are together, and I'm fighting. I'm getting ready to fight Willie Dynamite. I call him Willie Dynamite. And I remember thinking of Hagler the whole time, and that was my mindset. I said, you know what? Just like Hagler, I don't need anybody but me. And I'm going to put my hands up, and I'm going to walk right through this guy just like Hagler did Tommy Hearns. And I did. I stopped him. I stopped him in the second round. And the entire fight, I was thinking of Marvin Hagler. Like when I got hit, I said, Hagler, what would Hagler do? And I already know Hagler's going to walk right through fire, and he's going to go get you. And so I won a lot of fights thinking of Marvin Hagler. But I'll tell you, now here's the cool story. About four years ago, I'm at the Hall of Fame. Marvin always went to the Hall of Fame, Canastota. He hung out. He would hang out in Graziano's, the restaurant, but he would hang out in the back room. So you couldn't just walk up to Marvin and sit down and talk to him like you could with other people. But anyway, so they do on Sunday morning at the Hall of Fame, they do the 5K run. Everybody does it. Fans do it. Fighters do it. I remember the year we did
I've
it.
done it a good number of times, John, too, that
Oh, so
5K run.
So
Yeah.
So Timothy Bradley won it the year I was doing it. So anyway, so I'm jogging by myself. I'm not a runner anyway. I know I can't win, so I'm just kind of jogging. Now we're on like a quiet road. There's nobody around. It's just trees, right? And I see Mickey Ward up in front of me. He saw that I was coming up behind him, so he waited for. He was like 100 yards in front of me. So I catch up to Mickey. So we're jogging at a snail's pace, and Mickey's funny, and Mickey's like, "Listen, I'm not trying to win any races, man. Let's just chill out." I said, "All right, yeah, no problem." So we're jogging real slow. We're just talking. All of a sudden, this freaking guy, one of the townspeople, pulls up on a bicycle, like right next to us. And I don't even give him the satisfaction of looking at him. So I said, this guy from the town, he's going to be hanging out. He just wants to get close to Mickey, I guess. And, so I don't look, and I figure the guy's going to leave. So we're jogging. And the guy's literally riding his bike right next to us. He's not leaving. He's just listening to Mickey and I talk. And I'm like, man, it's kind of rude. I don't know what it is, right? I turn my head and I look at him. Marvin Hagler. Marvin Hagler sitting there on his bike, just rolling along next to us, like not saying a word. And I'm like, oh, man, Marvin, what's up, man? And at the time, I was talking to Marvin's son, James, a lot, who used to be in the gym when he was a little kid. Now he's a grown man. And so we had a nice little talk, and it was cool. And then he got on his bike and kept going, and that was it. So
Yeah.
Marvin was cool. Marvin was real cool. And then, and let me say one more thing.
Right.
A couple years ago in Las Vegas. Now this is Hagler. I always thought of Hagler like Mr. T and Rocky. Like Hagler was mean, and he's Hagler. He's the man. So we're in Las Vegas, and me and a couple, I forget who I was with, but we're hanging out, and all of a sudden Marvin's walking around. He's got his wife with him, his new wife, not his wife from years ago, but it's his most recent wife. So we're talking, and I'm talking about his son, because me and his son were trying to do something together. All of a sudden, Hagler, he looks over at his wife and he goes, "Yo, man, I gotta go, man. The wife's giving me the eye." And I was like, okay. And I'm going, Marvin Hagler's wife is like bullying him. Like he can't stay and talk to me because Hagler's wife is telling him he got to go. And I said, man, like he's human. He's human. Marvin's human. And it was cool, man. Hagler. So I'm definitely going to be there for the his mother, I guess. His mother, who actually of all people, I guess she's invited all the boxing community to this event in a couple of weeks. I think it's at Brockton High School. So a bunch of us are going to go and hang out.
Don, this is overdue. In 2012, I spent a weekend in Brockton, Massachusetts, when they honored Rocky Marciano with a statue.
I was
and
there.
I kept asking you, okay, great. So you remember that weekend well, but I kept asking, well, what about Marvin Hagler? Even though he moved from Newark to Brockton, he was a major part of Brockton's sports history. So this is kind of long overdue. I wish it had happened earlier. I wish he'd gotten a statue, let's say the year after Rocky had gotten his.
Yeah, it should have dawned on somebody, like at that moment. I mean, look, Hagler's Hagler. And Brockton, if you've ever been to Brockton, there's not a lot there. It's not like it's overflowing with, Brad Pitt sightings, and, Hagler was Hagler. Like when I look at anybody on the planet Earth, when they think of, if you say to them, Brockton, Massachusetts, they're either going to think of Marciano or Hagler and nothing else, period.
So, John, there was a big, I don't know if you want to call it a controversy, but of course we know Canelo had a fight, and there was a broken cheekbone and then bruised eye socket and the optic in his eye. The guy that he fought was really banged up and he quit. during the fight. That's what they're calling anyway. I don't really consider it a quitting. I call it, being a little sane. But whatever the however you want to say it, and it has been ridiculed a little bit. I think maybe before they knew the seriousness of it, it was ridiculed a little bit more than it is now. I think it cooled down a little bit. But you being a fighter and being a trainer, I'm gonna kind of question you on this, and let me finish before you get mad at me, please. But you're in the boxing game. You fought you tore your rotor cuff. Joe Smith fought with a broken jaw. I mean, this is what pretty close. This is what the fans go to boxing for. They want to see guys get beat up, and as a boxer, that is your profession. You're in there to either wait. Well, let me finish. That's why I said let me finish. Let me finish before you, because I'm going to come back around. You're there using your hands as skill, and to actually possibly knock a guy unconscious, to hurt a guy. That's what boxing basically is. It's been going on that way for years. That is the martial art of boxing. It's a tough guy sport, like hockey, like MMA, like football. Fans expect fighters to keep going, even though they wouldn't. Now, I'm going to bring it back now, because there is now every fan out there that thinks they can fight couldn't last around sparring with a professional fighter. You just can't do it. They don't understand the training, the preparation, the wind you got to have to fight just 3 minutes. Never mind 10 hours.
They wouldn't go to work with a paper cut. Right? They would take the day off.
But when people got upset, I'm not saying I can see people criticizing a little bit. I don't think they should criticize it. But the profession of boxing is to watch two tough guys beat each other up. That's what it is, and fight hurt. And the best fights in history, I shouldn't say the best, but the most notable, people's eyes are bleeding, they're hurt, they got bruises. I mean, this is what people like, whether I like it or you like it or not. That's what the profession is. Now, so with that being said, I think there's certain circumstances, like what happened at Canelo fight, he definitely shouldn't be criticized for stopping the fight, the corner.
Well, Billy Joe Sanders, correct. Yeah. Correct, Mac.
Right.
Can I just chime in one quick thing before John goes? You make a great point, Mac. I agree with you 100%, except in the case of Billy Joe Sanders, there was another fight beforehand with a heavyweight, Daniel Dubois, however you pronounce his name, who got hit in the eye. And he took the 10 count after fighting an additional round because of an eye injury. And Billy Joe Sanders made a statement that Daniel Dubois quit. And Billy Joe Sanders said they can bust my skull, they could knock my eye socket out, and I would never quit under any circumstance. I would go out on my shield. So he criticized another fighter, and then ironically, he had the same injury in the ring, and his corner pulled him out, and he didn't object. So if you're going to criticize him for criticizing another fighter, I think that's fair game. I think Billy Joe got a little of what he deserved because of how he acted criticizing another fighter. But with that said, Mac, I agree with you 100%. A guy suffers that injury, especially getting hit in the eye. George Chaballo quit against Joe Frazier the moment he got hit in the eye, because the pain, from what I understand, is so horrific and untakeable. But John, getting back to what Max said, what's your view on that?
Well, I'll say this. The vast majority of people who are criticizing him would skip work if they had a paper cut. They would not go, people are expecting all these great things, but yet they themselves wouldn't hold themselves to any kind of standard at all. The problem is this: you're paying to see a man go to his limits, right? He's going to go to his limits, whatever they are. Well, guess what? That was Billy Joe's limit. A broken eye socket that no doubt felt like his head was splitting open in half was his limit. I'm sure it would be the vast majority of the Earth's population limit. Now, when he said that, what he said about Du Bois, it's publicity. And here's the thing. He meant it. You ask any fighter on earth, any fighter, before their fight, what's it going to take for you to quit? Decapitation. I'll quit if I get decapitated. That's what everybody's going to say. That's what you want them to say. That's what they're supposed to say. But you break somebody's orbital bone. That's not a hangnail. I mean, that's an injury that feels like brain damage. That's an injury that feels like an aneurysm, a blood clot. You don't know. You're there. I mean, he lasted as long as he did with, in different kind of pain, a different kind of pain that the human beings are never going to face in their lives. So I don't care what a guy says before a fight, because he's saying it to get publicity, to draw attention to himself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the nature of the game. People need to relax. You're not in there to get killed. I'm not dying. And Tony Galento, and Jack, I'm sure you remember this. Not that you were there or anything, but Tony Galento, I think it was Tony Galento, or whoever. No, Max Baer. Max Baer fought Joe Louis. Now you know what I'm talking about. Joe Louis.
Oh yeah, great story. Go ahead.
He's crushing Max Baer. And now back then it cost like $1.50 to go to a fight. And so I guess he took a knee or whatever he took, because Joe Louis is a deadly finisher. And everybody's like, oh man, what are you doing? You quit, you stop fighting. And he goes, listen, you're going to have to pay a lot more than $1.50 to see an execution. And,
Oh, yeah.
And there it is.
Go ahead, Jack.
It's a great line. It was a great
There's
line.
certain retirements that sadden me where the crowd boos. One of the great lightweights of all time was Carlos Ortiz. On September 20th, 1972 at Madison Square Garden, Ortiz fought Ken Buchanan, and Ortiz was at the end of the line. At the end of the 6th round, Ortiz just quit on his stool. Not that he was getting beaten up bad. He was exhausted and said, I didn't want to get hurt. I didn't want to get knocked out. I'm through. I'm never going to box again. And he never boxed again. But the crowd booed this legendary champion because he quit. And to me, he was entitled to quit. He was exhausted. Well, absolutely exhausted at the end of his line. He was calling it a career, kind of like you were in the ring, John. You mentioned when you were in the ring, you kind of made up your mind. I'm not boxing again, the worst night of my life. I just want to get out of here. And I don't think the crowd should be booing someone under that circumstance. The only circumstance, Mac, John, I'll accept if a fighter doesn't train the right way, like Buster Douglas didn't train against Holyfield. He comes into the ring, comes in for the payday, and then falls down because he's in no shape to really put up a big resistance. In that case, I'm not against booing the guy because the guy really did dog it. But in the majority of cases, I mean, if a guy doesn't want to continue, he feels he can no longer win the fight, and he wants to retire of his own accord, that I'm fine with that.
But guys, what I'm saying on the other side is that people watch fighting for not optic eye injuries, John, but for the punishment that fighters take and give out. Otherwise, they would go to sparring matches. They're not gonna pay a lot of money to go to sparring matches where you can stop the fight. So what is the balance? I mean, when do you say, for instance, okay, the No Mas fight, right? I mean, that's probably the biggest example of somebody just quitting during a fight because he felt outmatched. So where's the limit, John? I mean, you end up being a professional boxer or fighter that's supposed to be willing to go through hell and back and take a beating and give a beating and trying to knock out another guy. Where is the limit of when it's acceptable or not? Because the fans don't know all the time during a fight how hurt this fighter is. Right?
They have no idea. Look at Gerald McClellan. I'll tell you what, and I never forgave the guy, Ferdy Pacheco. Good example. Gerald McClellan fights Nigel Benn on Showtime. Brutal fight, war, the whole nine. Everything you want in a fight. All of a sudden, Gerald McClellan, this vicious, deadly champion, he decides to take a knee right in the ring during the fight, takes a knee, quits. He allows the ref to count him out. And Ferdy Pacheco, a fight doctor, a man who is called the fight doctor. He's not a fight observer. He's not a trainer. He's not a fighter. He's a doctor. Treated Muhammad Ali for years.
Mm-hmm.
He says on national television, worldwide television, he quit. His heart gave out on him, labeling Gerald a quitter. Well, here it is, 25 years later, and Gerald cannot feed himself. He cannot get out of bed to use the bathroom because of that fight. Gerald knew something was wrong with him. Something was happening in his head that audience couldn't see. And that moron, Ferdy Pacheco, the fight doctor, called him a quitter on national television. That's the problem. You, as I said before, you pay to see a man reach his limits. Just because my limits aren't Arturo Gotti's limits, don't call me heartless, because if I walk up to you and tell you I'm going to punch you in your mouth in 4 seconds, you're going to cower like a baby. So don't tell me what heart is and what determination is and all that nonsense, because people, they go out on your shield, and they saw that in a movie, in a gladiator movie. Go out your shield. I mean, come on, man. Like I say, the majority of people couldn't deal with a cold. They got to skip work for 3 days and lay in bed and pretend that they're dying. And meanwhile, they've got a cold that some NyQuil would take care of. And, and they want people to half die in the ring so that they can feel like they got $20 worth of excitement out of it. I mean, come on.
When time permits another time, Mac and myself have to talk to you about the concept of stopping a fight. It's ridiculous with the cornermen, the ringside physicians, who can stop fights between rounds, have the authority. And the referees, they think they're doing a fighter a favor by letting him go on and on and on, giving him every chance of winning. And the chances of him dying in the ring a lot of times are greater than him coming back and winning the fight. And fighters need to keep their dignity. A lot of times they want to get pulled out. They don't want to quit. They're hoping the referee or the corner stops the fight. They sit down in the corner, and the idiots in the corner are urging him to do more when he has nothing left to give. And he doesn't want to say to the corner, I can't go on, because if he does, he's going to be labeled a quitter.
Right.
Billy Joe Sanders actually didn't quit against Canelo, guys. It was his corner that made the decision. Billy Joe Sanders didn't argue. He was probably relieved. Maybe he would have came out for the 9th round if it had his corner pushed him. Who knows? I mean, but you got to let the fighters, John could tell you, escape with his dignity. And a lot of times these guys don't do that, and they force the fighter to make a decision, either continue on and get hurt or quit and be retire, I should say. Not, I hate to use the word quit, and be labeled in a negative way.
100%. Good call. Very good call. I like that.
Okay, well, John, I wanted to get your thoughts on it, because I know you've been in that position where you've been so hurt you were boxing with one hand. And you talk about fighters that take a punishment, and some do come back and win the fight, believe it or not. But I mean, to me, if it's that bad that you got a broken cheek, and a doctor, I don't know what kind of doctors are in the ring with you, John. I really don't. I don't know if they're specialists or they're just general practitioners. I don't know what they are, but I think that they could probably spot if you got a broken cheekbone and should be stopping a fight if anything like that near your eye, or even ribs that could puncture lungs. I mean, they've got to have the authority, and I hope the doctors are more specialists than just general doctors, John.
I don't know if I told you this. I'll tell you a quick story about you think. I always thought, when I watched the fight on TV, I thought both fighters were high level. I thought the referee was the best in the world. I thought the guys in the corner were all geniuses. I thought the guys talking about the fight ringside were experts and knew everything. Now that I'm in the game, I realize that's not always the case. I was at a fight, and I might have told you this story, but just for today's episode, I'm in Australia a few years ago with a fighter. He gets hit at the bell in the back of the head, like a blatant back of the head. He goes down. He gets up, gets hit again in the back of the head. The referee, you know, we're fighting a hometown guy. The referee like doesn't say a word. So the kid comes and sits down on the stool. He's like, John, I'm messed up. Like, he's really messed up. So I'm like, man, they're gonna stop the fight and call it a TKO. So I walk over to the referee in the middle of the ring. I go, hey, you know the guy can't win on hitting the guy in the back of the head, right? And he's like, what do you mean? And I go, what do I mean? Like, were you there? It just happened like 30 seconds ago. Like, the guy punched my guy in the back of the head, and my guy can't continue. And it turned into a big drama. And I realized this referee is on the side of the home country promoter. He wants my guy to continue. And the other trainer actually walked over to me. He was real short. I go, listen, shorty, go back to the corner, relax. And he didn't like that too much. But I'm like, so I'm in the middle of the ring. So I told the referee who is in charge of protecting the fighter, I said, listen, I got news for you. You're going to have to call your National Guard or your Army or whoever it is to come get me out of this ring, because I'm not leaving and my guy's not fighting. And he didn't know what to do. So after like 3 minutes, it dawned on me. I looked over at my corner. My guy's just sitting there. I go, hey, do you guys have a doctor? He goes, yeah, he's sitting right there. He's next to the corner. I went over. Now I'm just completely irritated. I'm like, hey, you awake? I said, why don't you come up here and check things out a little? Bring your flashlight with you. He comes up. He looks at my guy. He tells me he's okay. He can fight. And I go, are you out of your mind? Are you crazy? Who are you? And the doctor got me. He wanted to fight me. I said, listen, who are you? And I found out later he was great friends with the promoter. They were out the night before the fight at the bar hanging out all night. He wanted my guy to get knocked out clean so it would look good for the hometown guy, the home country guy. Insanity. My guy could have got killed. And lucky for him, I was there because I told him, listen, man, I got you. You're not fighting. Trust me. They're going to have to kill me to get you out there. And but that's the world of professional boxing. You've got to protect you. You've got to protect your guy, because don't think that it's like politics. Don't think the people in charge are necessarily going to save you. They may not. There may be another ulterior motive for them.
Yeah. Well, John, great having you come in. I really wanted to talk to you about that, and Marvin, and get your thoughts on it. Very great thoughts. You were there. You've done it both ways, right? Boxing and trading. You went on probably when you shouldn't have kept fighting, and you've helped your fighters to be a trainer as you get older and think about things a little bit more clearly than going in there as a boxer. So that's great having you on again, Iceman. Hopefully we have you again next week. Have a lot more stuff to cover with you in boxing. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, guys. Be good.
See you
next week.
So there you go. Iceman with his unique perspective from both angles, Jack. I mean, I know that you don't get people with them kind of perspectives like the Byron Williams and the certain coaches that were there and did work. So I love to probe their minds for experience and their analysis of certain things like that.
I agree. I mean, good stuff. We have a lot of great guests like John Scully, who did it at a high level, fought for world title. Byron Williams played for, various teams, played for Bill Parcells and the Giants. They give us a perspective from the from the inside. I mean, we see things from the outside. And in reality, Mac, all you and I are knowledgeable fans. I know you coach, but I'm talking about an NFL level of fighting on a high level of professional boxing, and
sure.
I just love to talk to the guys who've gotten down in the trenches at the highest levels.
And Jack, you've covered boxing for decades, and I mean, you've seen it all. But it's hard to imagine. I know you did a little Golden Gloves, but it's hard to imagine in the ring or on the football field playing at that speed or fighting at that speed and things happening, and to really find out what's going on in their minds and what their perspectives are during the game or during the match. is invaluable. So, folks, we're going to be right back after this quick break. About 3 minutes, we'll be back on the other side, and me and Jack got a lot more sports to cover. So please stay with us.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211-INFO-LINE. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on live Wednesday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. We don't take the weekend off, folks. We're here all weekend for you when you're off from work so you can really dig some really great sports. How'd you like me using the word dig, Jack? How long has it been since you heard the word dig?
I don't know, Mac. I mean, in this modern day and age, I mean, so many terms are coming up. I mentioned something from the past and people are giving me, a double look, and I don't know. I mean, it's like I can't keep up with all this stuff. Yeah, I used to try. I don't even make an effort to anymore.
You got to the age. I haven't got there yet, Jack. In my mind, I'm still 20.
The benefits to being considered an old timer, the young generation kind of forgives you. Some of them actually look up to you. They like old school stuff. They're like thirsting for it. So, the same nonsense I talked about when I was younger, where people will walk away. Now young people are hanging around me trying to soak in some of the words.
Right.
So I can't make sense of it all.
I definitely understand that. So, Jack, every Thursday we have a segment we do that, I have you look into your crystal boxing gloves and see if you can come up with the predictions of the upcoming events that will happen, in the future. So we're going to go ahead and run that first. It's called "It Ain't Gonna Happen," folks. And as I do my little handiwork here behind the scenes, so that we can actually put up the segment, we will get to that. There it is. Let's see if we can pop it up. There we go. Ain't gonna happen, with Jack Hirsch giving his predictions on whether this kind of stuff is going to happen or not in the future. So, Jack, let's go with in the NBA. The Lakers get healthy and win the championship this year.
It ain't going to happen. It's just not there for the Lakers this year. And they're not an overpowering, dominant team, even with LeBron and Anthony Davis. What I mean, they're not so much better than the other teams in the NBA, even when all cylinders are running the right way. And if that should happen, it says very little for the regular season, meaning you could turn the switch on and off. And the Lakers aren't even going to probably be a top 6 team. Last night, they didn't have LeBron or AD playing, and they barely got by the Houston Rockets. I mean, the Houston Rockets, arguably the worst team in the NBA, they nearly lost to Houston. It ain't going to happen, even if LeBron and AD come back. It's just not there for the Lakers this year.
Stay in the NBA. If the Clippers don't win the championship, they fire this head coach like they did Doc Rivers last year.
Ain't going to happen. I think the Clippers are basically stuck. There's nowhere else to go. Kawhi Leonard, where's he really going to go? He's a Clipper. He made up his mind that's where he's going to be. It would be 2 years in a row since he left the Toronto Raptors, who he was an icon in Toronto based on the 1 year in which they won the NBA title. And he's with Paul George. I think they just try again. Paul George, it didn't work out with him and Russell Westbrook a couple of years at OKC. You can just keep moving around so long, Eventually, you have to stay put and make, the best of your situation. So I think it's status quo. They come back, they try again next year. And it's that way with a number of teams. Players can only move so much after a while.
I agree with that. Tom Brady and Coach Belichick hug each other before their game.
Yeah, is it a real hug? Is it a false hug? Let me tell you something. Before Belichick and Parcells squared off as head coaches, when they came together for the first time, when I'm having a brain freeze who Parcells was coaching, Belichick was with the Patriots. Right. Parcells' eye comes to the middle of the field before the game to meet Belichick, to exchange pleasantries. Belichick is on the sidelines. He won't come out to meet Parcells in the middle of the field because he has some hard feelings towards Parcells. But when the game's over, the coaches meet and they give one another a quick hug and run off, and the announcer's saying, you see, everything is fine between them. Listen, I know a lot of former co-workers. If I saw them and they saw me, I might give them a quick hug that's going to last 1 second, but I kind of feel distant from them. So, the answer is Brady and Belichick. They've been through a lot together. There's a certain fondness there, but there's also a certain distance because of what went down, the way Brady left the Patriots. And Bill Belichick has taken a lot of flack for Brady winning a Super Bowl. And Brady's feelings to a degree could be, you see, I told you I should have been doing this with New England. the extra Super Bowl. They'll give one another hug. Half of it'll be sincere. The other half will be for the cameras.
Sam Darnold lights up the Jets when he's quarterbacking for the Carolina Panthers.
Ain't gonna happen. Maybe Darnold will play a good game. He's not gonna light the Jets up. I mean, he's just not going to, do it. And it's an intriguing game. Wilson and Darnold, the comparison. And let me tell you, Robert Saleh, the Jet coach, is a defensive coach. If his defense gets lit up game one by Sam Darnold, wow, that's not a good start for this new Jet regime, with Robert Saleh. So maybe Sam Darnold plays a good game. I don't know. But to light it up means he's going to play a heck of a game and play like an elite quarterback. So I'm going to say ain't going to happen.
And the last one is ex-head coach Pat Shurmur designs the offense to defeat the Giants in their first game, Jack.
Pat Shurmur, wait. Are they playing Denver?
Yeah.
Wait. I'm a little lost here. Pat Shurmur, isn't he the coordinator for Denver? What?
Offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos, Jack.
Denver Broncos, right. And he's going to – and are they playing the Giants in the opening game? I kind of missed that. So for him to say that he's going to light up the Giants, I mean, Pat Shurmur, it just didn't quite work out, for him. The answer is going to be no, ain't going to happen. I don't think Denver is that good. There's talk of Aaron Rodgers going there. But wait a second, Mac. If it's Aaron Rodgers as the Denver quarterback, I got a feel it's going to happen. So wait. Ain't going to happen without Aaron Rodgers. It's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. How does that sound?
Hey, that works for me, Jack. So that's our segment of Ain't Gonna Happen as Jack predicts the future as he does every week. Let's get to the Major League Baseball scores, or at least the information on some of the local teams. The Red Sox, they lose 4-1 with the A's. That included a balk by the pitcher as a third base. The guy on third base kind of faked the move, and the pitcher didn't know he had to either go home or throw it to third, that he couldn't kind of stand in the middle and do a dance there. So the Red Sox lose. The Mets beat up the Dark Knight on his return to New York, Jack. They kind of took it to Harvey.
But Matt, I know they bad game for Harvey. The Mets hit him hard, but kudos to the Met fans.
Yes.
They were seeing Matt Harvey for the first time since he left the Mets 3 years ago, and they gave him 3 separate standing ovations. That's nice to see. So many times in sports, when a player comes back to his old team, they boo him. I hate that. I hate that. Only in unique circumstances should you boo a player who used to play for your team. If he left the team under ugly circumstances, he criticized the city, wanted to get out even though he had it good in that, city, then I can understand booing him. But if he leaves just because his skills declined a little or he's getting a much better contract, cheer him when he comes back. Class move by the Mets fans. 3 separate, standing ovations for Matt Harvey. It was really nice to see.
Yeah, Jack, but Harvey didn't tip his cap either time, which kind of bothered me a little bit. I mean, at least let the fans know, you're wrong way. But at least
tipped it the first time. He tipped it the first time I heard.
I didn't see it. When I watched the video, he didn't. And, when he took him out, they gave him another standing ovation.
Can I tell you something, Mac? The great Tom Seaver, the most iconic player in Met history. We agree with that, but all the great players in Met history, Tom Seaver's number 1. When Tom Seaver was in his prime, pitching for the Mets, he never acknowledged Met fans when they would cheer wildly for him, never tipped his cap, never waved to the crowd. But when he came back as a Cincinnati Red, after an ugly breakup with the Met organization, and the Met fans were cheering him, Tom Seaver would be tipping his cap, waving to the Met fans, because in that circumstance, he saw he finally needed them as much as they needed him. So it was his way, like, I'm coming back. Wow, they're acknowledging me. supporting me in a sense against the way the organization treated me. So, sometimes they come back. Mickey Mantle never really used to acknowledge Yankee fans. He was quiet. He was indifferent. But when they had Mickey Mantle Day at the stadium, he would be waving and acknowledging. It's just the way it is with some athletes.
Yes, it's very true. So we also have the Yankees winning. Cole was lights out, Jack. He went 8 innings, struck out 12. The fastest for him to get to that total strikeouts he has right now. I don't have it in front of me, but I know this is the fastest he got to that strikeout. He's having a better year than he had last year for sure, Jack. Hicks gets the bat on the ball like he's supposed to, gets that sacrifice fly in, and Chapman's on fire too right now, Jack.
Let me tell you something. Chapman, if he can keep this up for the whole year, you might be talking about a relief pitcher winning the Cy Young Award. He hasn't given up an earned run yet. Chapman's been overpowering. A year or two ago, there was a lot of concern about Chapman's velocity. Oh, he's not throwing as hard as before. He's tapping out a lot of times at 97, 98, which is a come down from 101. Well, he's back with his velocity and his location, and he's just pitching magnificently, Chapman. And of course, Cole has been great, one of the best pitchers in baseball. He has to be, because for all the criticism the Yankees have, maybe not spending the money, you forget a couple of years ago, they made him the highest paid player in baseball history, a 9-year deal, $36 million a year. That's borderline insane to give a pitcher 9 years. He's in the second year of that deal. It's working out. Now, as a deal goes along, Mac, it gets short. You sign a guy to a 9-year deal, it looks bad. But after he performs well for 2 years, you ask, well, would you now sign him for a 7-year deal at the money he's getting, the remaining part of the contract? And you say kind of yes, to that. So Cole has been tremendous for the Yankees. They have something that they hadn't had since Roger Clemens, a valid ace. Now, in all due respect to pitchers like Mike Mussina and Andy Pettitte, they weren't quite aces in that mold. In the Clemens, Cole mold. They were great pitchers, but there's a difference between the ultimate ace and a great number 2 behind them, okay? Who could anchor a staff, and Cole's the guy who could anchor the staff. He's the big guy you throw in there, and he's been great for them this year.
Well, what's your opinion on Cone as an ace, Jack? I think Cone was an ace for the Yankees also, and Wells was pretty close, if not an ace. He was, a 2A, almost 1. The Yankees had some really good pitching over the years, especially, in the 90s and early 2000s.
These guys were close to being aces. The guys are mentioning like David Cone, David Wells, they're the equivalent of maybe a Scottie Pippen, close to it. Great pitchers, but they're not Michael Jordan. They're not Kobe Bryant. Okay, the type of guys you need, who take over as the ultimate guy on the team. Or we talk about the Clippers. You mentioned basketball. Could they win the NBA title? I'm just using this as an example. Kawhi Leonard, he's your franchise player. The other guys are the Paul Georges. They come close, the Andy Pettittes, the Mike Mussinas. And I put Mike Mussina a little ahead of Andy Pettitte. David Cone, David Wells, very comparable. That's a nice debate. Who is a better pitcher? That would be a great debate with Doc for us to get into, another time. But there's a difference between them and Roger Clemens. And I understand David Wells at his very best, you could argue, was as good as Clemens. Clemens just did it longer, and he was always there as an anchor of a pitching staff. And that's how I look like, Garrett Cole. He's going to be the ace. You're counting on him for years to come. And then you get the Luis Severinos. If Severino comes back healthy, puts it all together, he's going to be close behind. But you're always going to know that Cole is 1 and the rest of the guys are 1A.
Right. And Buck Flair brings up a great point. The Kurt Schillings of the world, who are good enough to take over for a season in a game, but maybe not that ultimate ace.
Right. Pedro Martinez, I think, was the ultimate ace of the Red Sox staff. Yeah. But if I needed anyone for a big game to pitch for the Red Sox, I would pick Schilling over Martinez. I know it's a conflicted statement that's complicated, but, it's what it is.
Yeah,
Drysdale and Kovacs, Mac. Kovacs was your ultimate ace. Drysdale, would he be the ultimate ace of a pitching staff? I don't think so. Bob Gibson, Juan Marichal, Steve Carlton, those guys were ultimate aces, on their pitching staff.
Yeah, great points. Yeah, great points. So, folks, we're going to jump out, and we ran a little long in the first segment. We're going to jump out and do a quick commercial break. We'll be back with the NBA update, and we're also going to be talking a lot of sports news on the other side. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this. So far, the show, Jack, I'm loving it with all the different kind of information we got going out there, having the Iceman, Carter on, and looking at some of the different things going on in sports, because all the playoffs are coming to an end and the Major League Baseball is starting to heat up a little bit. So we'll be right back after this. Stick with us, folks.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. A lot of kids try it at this age, so...
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though. But they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, the legendary boxing writer himself, Jack Hirsch, back for his second day from that little brief vacation he was on when he got to visit with his family and everything, and that's the kind of stuff I love to hear about, families staying tight, staying together. There's nothing like it in the world. Jack, I'm gonna go through a little points of interest and take care of a little bit of business as we continue our show here. As people know, or people that don't know, that just joined us, we are on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Combined listeners right now, Jack, over 100,000 people with all the shows. So we're growing all the time. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel where you'll be able to see all the great Northeast Streaming Sports shows. A lot of great variety we have out there. You can also do a Facebook search at N.E. Streaming Sports. Please like, follow, and share that if you could. We're on ZODIAC TV, folks. It's a global TV network. They just got their website up and going. They're starting to really get out there streaming their television channel. All of our shows are on there during the early evening hours, and check that out. Our website also is nessp.info. Great site. A lot of information about Northeast Streaming Sports on there. And folks, we will be covering, and we started kind of doing introductions of the Connecticut Falcons, Jack. The Connecticut Falcons, who are our adopted team from the TFL, the Tri-Borough League. We're going to be doing updates on them and all kinds of stuff. We're going to be doing games, live calling games for them, and doing some of the highlights of the Coach's Corner and stuff like that, where we'll be able to listen to them. You'll be able to hear them on Northeast Streaming Sports as we call our games live. Check out the Mac and Jack Sports Show, where we'll be interviewing the coach. And that's the Falcons there crying out right now, Jack, as they get ready for their big game against the number one team in the division to take over the leadership. And guess what, Jack? They're going to win that. I'm telling you right now. Yes, sir. The semi-professional football team, the Connecticut Falcons, as they try to win that division, Jack, and try to get into what they call the Sunshine Bowl, where they will be playing for a national championship. And how great would that be to check out the Connecticut Falcons going for the national the championship in the semi-pro league. I know there's other semi-pro leagues down the coast, across the country, and they may be one of those teams that end up there, Jack.
I'm going to tell you, whoever plays in the Sun Bowl, it's in Florida, right? I got to get a little more information where it's at, but regardless, in Florida, it's going to be hot. So the players are going to have to adjust, be hydrated. You know, so I kind of wonder the mindset. I sometimes put myself, Mac, in the shoes of NFL players who have to play in cold weather. When the Giants played at Green Bay, 0-degree weather, I couldn't do that, Mac. I couldn't play in 0-degree weather and get tackled and get knocked down and keep playing. But it's harder for some of the guys to play in hot weather. Playing in 90-degree weather, I mean, you better be hydrated the whole game and adjust to that weather, because that's pretty tough too. I went to a USFL game in, I think it was 1984, 83 or 84, when the Chicago Blitz played the Philadelphia Stars. I went to Philadelphia, and it was a playoff game. The Blitz had a 21-point lead with 10 minutes to go and lost the game because they wilted in the heat. So it's quite an adjustment. When they say football is played in all weather, it truly is. And the biggest challenge the players have a lot of the time is not adjusting to the opposition, but adjusting to the elements. I mean, very difficult thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Jack. And think of the improvements. Can you imagine without those heated seats, those hot pads they put in their pockets, the huge fans and air-conditioned cooling benches they have now? They used to stand around a garbage can filled with wood, burning back in the old days. That's how they stayed warm, Jack. And if I go back and watch those pictures, it's incredible.
I have to mention this point because it's tied in with the weather, with Bud Grant, who was the former Viking head coach who took them to 4 Super Bowls. The Vikings were their day's version of the Buffalo Bills. They went to 4 Super Bowls and they didn't win any of them. They didn't go 4 years in a row the way the Bills went, but they did go to 4 Super Bowls, basically with the same personnel, the Purple People Eaters on defense, Grant Tarkenton at quarterback. But a former Viking head coach, Jerry Burns, passed away yesterday at the age of 94. And he had a great career in football. He was actually the defensive back coach for the Green Bay Packers under Vince Lombardi the years they won the Super Bowl. And then he was an assistant coach under Bud Grant, I believe, at some of those Viking teams. And later he became a head coach for the Minnesota Vikings. And he just passed away at age 94. And Fran Tarkenton said he never could have become the player he was without the help of Coach Jerry Burns. So, we remember Jerry Burns on this day.
Yes. Condolence to his family. Let's get to the NBA, Jack. Last night, the Hawks beat the Wizards 120-116. Dallas beats the Pelicans 125-107. I think that's pretty much a disappointing year for the Pelicans this year. Portland beat the Jazz 105-98. As you said, the Los Angeles Lakers squeaked by Houston. And the locals, Cleveland beats Boston 102-94. Tatum hits 29 as Boston falls to 500, Jack. Are they in danger? I know they're going to be in at least, in the playoffs. But are they in danger of just getting knocked out in the first round?
They were in the play-ins. They're going to be in the play-ins, the Celtics. Oh, good point Keith mentioned, just going back with Jerry Burns. He was an offensive guy. I may have inadvertently said defense back with the, coach with the Packers. But the Celtics have basically thrown in the towel the last couple of days. Look, the Cavaliers lost like 11 games in a row and they beat the Celtics. So the Celtics are getting ready for the play-in, but I don't look for them to be any type of factor. I don't even look for them to survive the play-in in the East. I wouldn't be surprised even a team like the Wizards beat the Celtics, in the play-in. It's a lost year for the Celtics, a very disappointing year. And they talk in the Boston area, they talk about, what's going to be with New England, all the adjustments that they made. What adjustments are the Celtics going to make in the offseason? Because even though they have their own big three that we constantly talk about, Tatum, Brown, and Walker, coming back with their big three, it just didn't get done this year. And they're going to have to make some type of adjustments, some type of deals. And I'm not sure what Danny Ainge is going to do with their team. The Hawks, you mentioned, winning, coming from behind. They beat the Wizards last night. They went ahead of the Knicks for the 4th seed, but it doesn't matter much, 4th to 6th seed. All it might ultimately mean is an additional playoff game. I think that has little impact. The Lakers look like they're going to have to play in the play-in game. It's not definite, but, Portland upsetting Utah, I think they played yesterday. So, that was a game the Lakers were kind of counting on Portland losing so they could maybe sneak into the 6th spot. So the play-in is going to be a little bit of a fun tournament. But again, bottom line is teams 7 to 10 get in there. What does the regular season mean in the NBA anymore, Mac? You could argue it didn't mean that much because 8 teams got in as it is. But in reality, 10 teams are getting in the East, 10 in the West. You could just waddle your way, into a top 10 position and peak for the playoffs. Something about it I just don't like.
I agree with that, Jack. I think when it comes, and even to hockey to a point, right? You're playing all these games and then, you have so many playoff games. I mean, hockey, you could say one division has 4 teams, that's not a lot, but there's only like 8 teams in the division, so half the teams are getting in. And why even play a regular season? Let's just start off with the playoffs, do the best of 7, and get it over with. I agree with you. I think baseball and football is getting a little crazy with the wild cards too. Baseball with their wild cards, at least they're still true to their division. You got to win the division. You've got to have, a good record to get in. When you have people under 500 get in, Jack, I don't see the reason for having a season.
Mac, does winning the division mean anything anymore? We talk Boston sports. The Boston Red Sox did something historic in 2004. They came from behind 3-0 against the Yankees to win the next 4, went on to break the curse of the Bambino and win the World Series. But guess what? The Yankees won the division that year. But does it mean anything at all, the Yankees winning the division? No. Not at all. The Red Sox essentially got in as a wild card, and we have so many cases of teams winning championships as wild cards. And, but the NBA is still more predictable because at the end of the day, the strongest teams are going to get in there. But you wonder how badly teams really want to win at the regular season. I've said it over and over again, and I hate mentioning it again. Everything in the NBA is geared towards getting ready for the playoffs. Regular season games don't mean that much, unless you want to send out a statement to the opponent. But if you're sending out a statement to the opponent in a regular season game, you're sending it out to give them something to think about in case you meet in the playoffs. It's playoffs, playoffs, playoffs. That's all that matters. It's not like baseball was years ago. Oh, let's win a pennant. What the heck's a pennant? As a younger person, ask them what a pennant is, they'd have no idea. But that used to be a magical word years ago. Win the pennant. Right. They think the pennant is a piece of jewelry. That's all a young person would think about now.
Yeah, I agree with that, Jack. The other local team, the Nets, get Harden back, and they roll, Jack, without Kyrie. Harden has 18 points, 11 assists, 7 rebounds. Durant comes in with 14 points, 11 rebounds. But more important, Jack, with the assists, and this is what I meant before about team basketball, 8 players on the Nets scored in double digits. And that's how the Nets are going to win the championship. Not with the big 3 on the court all hoisting up shots. You got to have team chemistry. You've got to have more than 1 or 2 people take over a game because, LeBron James, as great as he was with Cleveland and willed them to the championship and did a great job, that's rare, very rare. That's a Wilt Chamberlain thing. It happens once in a great while. You got to have team chemistry. You've got to have a team effort to win a basketball.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but you can't say the big 3 on the Nets doesn't have chemistry. They haven't played a lot together. The times they've played together, they have gotten the role players involved. They have. I don't see a selfishness there as far as attitude goes. Look, James Harden has been criticized a lot. He left Houston. But look what's happened to Houston since he left. They've fallen apart the way the Cavaliers fell apart when LeBron left. So it showed you the impact he had. I think James Harden's been unselfish. He wants to win a championship. I think Kevin Durant has deferred to Kyrie Irving. And when push comes to shove, you don't know what Kyrie Irving's attitude is on the court. You don't know what his teammates feel about him, the role players. You can't say that the Nets don't have the chemistry. They were lacking a bit in defense for a while, but when they've had to, they've tightened the defense up. DeAndre Jordan's been a great asset for him, and a few other guys coming off the bench. DeAndre Jordan's really a starter in reality, but I think their teammates have gotten involved. Claxton off the bench, he's been very involved in, Harris, and listen, I think the Nets are fine. listen, I think their big three will be ready to go for the playoffs, and they're going to be really tough to beat with the firepower they have.
Maybe so, Jack, but I just think that Kyrie is the downfall. And once Kyrie starts getting in there and playing, he's not James Harden. He's not mature like James Harden. He's not, because Harden's, let's face it, Harden's old in the tooth now. I mean, he still can shoot, no doubt, one of the greatest scorers of all time. But he wants to win a championship now more than be a scoring leader. Durant, natural leader, I think, one of the best three when he's healthy. Kyrie, wherever he's gone, Jack, wherever he's gone, there's been problems because Kyrie wants to take over the game. And every time he's played, and you see him with them 45 points, and you see with 3 assists or 2, they got problems, Jack, and I think that's going to be their downfall.
Well, I'm going to tell you, when LeBron wasn't on the Cavaliers, they didn't have good teams with Kyrie Irving there, not at all. And when Kyrie went to the Celtics, they didn't get it done this couple of years there. They could, he couldn't push him over the top. I know he was injured one year, and when they lost to the Cavaliers in the finals in 7 games, Kyrie didn't play. And listen, what Kyrie gives to the Nets in scoring, they can easily get that with James Harden and Kevin Durant, easily. And they came to the conclusion, actually, Kyrie came to the conclusion, and Steve Nash, to me, he's just along for the ride. He's a yes guy. He'll defer to the players. And maybe that's the right way to do it, with the personalities he has. But Kyrie and James Harden came to the conclusion they'd be better off James Harden playing the point instead of Kyrie, because he could be a better point guard and Kyrie could concentrate on scoring. But you want to know something? James Harden's a better scorer than Kyrie when push comes to shove. And Kevin Durant is a better player than both of them when push comes to shove. So we're going to see how it comes, how it unfolds in the playoffs, how everyone's going to handle their role. Is it going to work? And how the other teams respond. But I'm going to tell you, we joke with Pax on this show, but if the Sixers play the Nets, I could see an epic 7-game series going down. It's going to be a classic, a lot of fun.
I agree with that. In sports news, as I said, the NFL schedule is out. The NFL always finds a way to steal the headlines, Jack. I don't care what's going on. Everybody's all excited. Everybody's making predictions. All the fans are looking at the schedule, who's going to win, who's going to lose, what their record's going to be. Of course, we really don't know that until the season starts and they actually start playing real football, who's really good and who's not so good. And we still won't know until maybe after 4 games into the season who the better teams look like they're going to be. So, as I said, we'll be doing our starting Sunday. We're going to take the Buffalo Bills. We're going to look at them. We're going to predict what their record will be. It's impossible to do, but I think we'll get in the ballpark, Jack, because we know the Buffalo Bills, the Patriots have improved a lot. Miami will probably be good, but I think you'll agree that Buffalo Bills are the favorite to win.
We're opening up with the Buffalo Bills on Sunday.
Yes.
And you're already telling me I have to say they're the favorite to win the division.
I think
you forget, listen, I have to sit down and do some serious thinking between them and the Miami Dolphins, because I'll be honest, off the top of my head, without doing any serious analyzing of things, I'm leaning towards the Dolphins to come out of the AL East. Okay? How much the Patriots are going to come back from their 7-9 record, I'm not sure. But I don't see the Patriots as a gimme anymore like past years. Maybe last year was just an off year.
Yeah.
Maybe they were like the 1959 New York Yankees who won 14 pennants in 16 years. And out of the 2 years they didn't win it, they just had one bad year, and that was in 59, and then they won 5 pennants in a row after that. Maybe that was New England last year going 7-9. Maybe we're making too much out of it, thinking they slipped and it was just a blip, and they'll be back to the same New England Patriot 11-5 team thereabouts, who's going to be up there to win the division and get no worse than a wild card. It's intriguing. I mean, the Bills the Dolphins. Will the Patriots join them again? And it leaves my Jets out on an island all alone, separated. But listen, they'll be better than they were last year, at least. But the Buffalo Bills, yeah, listen, the Bills are for real. The Bills aren't going to fall off the radar. But will they take the next step? They were one game away from going to the Super Bowl last year. Okay, one game away. Did they max out at that? Or can they take the next step? Or will they take a step backward? It'll be interesting.
It definitely will, Jack, and you're going to have to take all that into consideration because not only the schedule, but the division they're in, and that's what I look at a lot because you mentioned the Patriots. They lost their whole defense last year because of COVID, and they've improved in free agency unbelievably. Plus, they got a new rookie quarterback that might even be the starter. We don't know yet, and that's what makes it's going to make it fun. So that's what we're going to start with Sunday. And other sports news, Jack, Chris Berman, of course, everybody loves Chris Berman with ESPN. He signs a multi-year extension to host NFL primetime, while other ESPN editors and producers and stuff are getting fired, or getting laid off, I should say, because of the restrictions. But Chris Berman's back, and everybody loves Chris Berman, Jack.
We love fixtures in sports, guys who've been with us a lot of years. They remind us of an earlier time in our life, happy days in the world of sports. So it's nice, Chris Berman doing NFL prime time, the tone of his voice. It's nice he's back with ESPN. At times it's a carnival show with ESPN. Listen, I like all the broadcasters at ESPN. There's no one who I don't like. I like them all. But with that said, I don't watch as much as I used to. If I need certain ESPN news, I'll go to the ESPN app. I'll take a look where they supply good news. The social issues, as important as they are, when they start dominating sports broadcasts all the time, I'm exiting out. If I want to hear that, I'll go to a news outlet and I'm going to listen. But, enough's enough. And they've really turned me off. And you kind of wonder if the ratings are down, there's a reason for it. Okay? And when it becomes a regular part of the sports broadcast, social issues, as important as they are, I'm just not in the mood to listen, I'll be honest.
So in boxing, Jack, supposedly Joshua Tyson Fury is going to be set August 7th or the 14th in Saudi Arabia. Is it going to happen, Jack? We've been waiting a long time. According to Eddie Hearn, it's going to happen.
I got to believe, yeah, this is going to happen because there's too much money that's involved. And it would be a two-fight deal. Money talks at the end of the day. Listen, Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua have different promoters. Anthony Joshua is promoted by Eddie Hearn's Matchroom Boxing. Tyson Fury is promoted by British promoter Frank Warren and Top Rank's Bob Arum. Now, the two sides don't get along that well. But when money talks at the end, you do a co-promotion because what is each guy going to do otherwise? Joshua needs this fight badly because who else is he going to fight? Is he going to fight Alexander Usyk? It's a risky fight. He could conceivably lose in the meantime, and he'd lose for a lot less money than he'd make fighting Tyson Fury. And who's Fury going to fight in the meantime? Deontay Wilder? It could make some good money. He probably beats Wilder again. But, you're taking risks in the meantime. When there's mega money to be made, Mac, even a loser wins.
Yeah.
Okay? Even a loser wins.
Very true. So, talk a little bit about college sports. Some colleges locally here and also in Stanford are starting to cut their non-revenue sports, Jack, that are not creating revenue for the school. Of course, here come the lawsuits, Chapter 19, sexual discrimination. And, I think we should talk about it a little bit. The football programs, for the most part, the college male football programs, they carry the athletic department's revenue. And of course, the rowing and the tennis and stuff like this, because of the law right now, because of, I think it's chapter or Title 19, they have to treat them all the same. All of them have to get some money. All of them have to be promoted. Or they have to be there as much for the female athletes in the non-revenue, whether it's female or male, and rowing and tennis and stuff like that, or golf. It has to be there for everyone. And I just want to get your quick view on that, Jack.
I have mixed feelings on it. We have to remember it's their educational institutions at the end of the day. They really are. And students attending a college have a right to participate in a variety of different programs. They should have a variety of different activities, be it just intramurals. Money should go into intramural programs, but who's going to pay for it? Where's it going to come from? And if your major sports, if you have, let's say, Duke, for example, most of their revenue, I think, in sports would come from basketball, football to an extent. Some of that money should be trickling down to the intramural programs and to women's sports as well. But with that said, the biggest revenue makers should get a little bit of a more of a benefit because they are making the money. And let's face it, the Duke basketball program is going to be a heck of a lot more important than the men's archery team, not even close. Or the women's swimming team at Duke, if they have one there, for example. So, you got to take that into account as well. But I think it can be balanced out. The major programs have to know X amount of money has to trickle down to the other programs to their satisfaction. But no, not all sports are equal, and not all programs are equal by a long shot, at all.
Yeah, I mean, Jack, if you think about it, they would have to continually raise tuitions, which are through the roof right now. And I think it's starting to come to a point where a lot of people just can't afford it. They're not going to take out the loans anymore. Even the ones that are supported by the states, the public education, taxes go to these people like you wouldn't believe the amount of money that go to the universities. I think there has something to do with the professors making a lot of money and not teaching as much as the student teachers. There's a whole network, and tenure is involved, and these people are making tons of money. And the head coaches of these huge sports programs are making a lot of money too, let's face it. So, I mean, where do the kids come in there? And this is what always bothers me about any organization, be it sports or any community organization, period. It seems that we think about the kids last and worry more about what people are making and what professions, and it drives me crazy sometimes. Should football, if it's a bigger program, get the most amount of the bigger part of the pie? Of course they should. But should the college coach make multi-million-dollar a year contract for doing this? See, this is where the problem lies with me, and this is where I'm torn, Jack.
Well, I have mixed feelings. If he can raise a tremendous amount of revenue for the school, let's say Nick Saban at Alabama, I'm not sure what he's getting paid, but it's, up there in the millions and millions, okay? But the amount of money he's raising for the University of Alabama through their football team, he's just getting a small amount of it back. Is he entitled to it? It's hard to argue against it. But then again, can you justify any college coach making more money than, let's say, 30 professors combined in a year, the 30 best professors on campus? It's a hard one. It's a tricky one. There's no answer for it, but sports raises a lot of revenue for the school. But where does that money go to? That's where we have to examine. I mean, who is it benefiting the money that they make?
Jack, great points ending the show, Jack. It's very hard, and I think somebody has to look into it more. maybe the government should do their job and start looking into the percentages that go to the kids as opposed to the staff and the coaches and everything. I think they need to look into that. Great job, Jack, at the end there, finishing it up. Folks, thanks for coming in, spending some time with us. Tomorrow, Byron Williams, NFL analyst, Keith Angle, our sports broadcaster from TGI Sports, who is up and running again. Glad to hear that. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Same time, same channel. Great for you being with us. Have a great day.